Here with us is Joel Rubin, a former State Department official with the Obama administration. Joel, always great to see you. Good morning.
You too, Hannah. Good morning.
Let's start with American journalist Austin Tice. He's still in captivity. He's been detained since 2012. What efforts will there need to be done to get him home safely after we're seeing the release of Travis Timmerman?
Well, Austin Tice has been in prison for, as you say, over a decade. It's a horrific situation. And what this really does is it goes back to Iran. Iran has a policy of supporting detention and kidnapping of American citizens. And in the case of Tice, the Assad regime, they held on to him. They have not been transparent about where he is. And so now we're scouring. And with our allies there, with the Kurds on the ground, as well as now that contacts are being established with HTS, which is the new power in Syria. And of course, we have the neighboring allies, as you mentioned. Hopefully, they'll find clues as to where he is. There's a belief he's alive, but really no direct clues. And it's very different from the Timmerman case, where we kind of just by luck found him. Austin Tice, there's really been a scouring to find him and identify where he is and get him out.
You mentioned allies, but some of the rebels that removed Assad from power are former ISIS, they're al-Qaeda fighters. How prepared is the U.S. to work with whatever government now replaces the ousted leader?
This is such a complex operating environment in Syria. And look, it's a new strategic landscape. Assad, who'd been running the country, him and his father, for over 5 decades, he's now gone. Iran is pushed out. Russia is being pushed out. So the new power, HTS, which was born, as you described, out of al-Qaeda and later ISIS, renounced its ties, but still we have to be suspicious. It's backed by Turkey, which is an American ally and NATO ally. And then, of course, in the East, we have the Kurds, with whom the United States, we've been partnering for a number of years in the support of in the fight against ISIS. So we have to consider whether or not HTS is worth talking to. We're engaging because they are the power. Actions speak louder than words. They have said they are different. Let's test them. Let's see, because right now, Syria's stability and the ability of all the Syrian people to weigh in on its future is critical to ensuring this country maintains integrity and does not implode into a broader war across the region.
And we've certainly seen that before. Let's move to Israel, Joel, where National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Sullivan describes Netanyahu as, quote, ready to do a deal when it comes to a ceasefire with Hamas. What would it take to make the deal acceptable now from both sides?
Well, I sure hope so. I hope that we're getting there. Look, Hamas has to release the hostages. That's step number one. There are about 100 hostages still there, but unfortunately, it looks like the majority may have been killed. That said, these hostages need to be released. And it looks as if Hamas, who, remember, does not have any longer its primary backer to count on, that's Iran. Iran just abandoned Assad. Iran has abandoned Hezbollah. Hezbollah has been defeated by Israel. And so Hamas is really on its own now. And so that means they may be willing to accept Israeli troops in Gaza to continue to maintain counterterror operations. That would be a tremendous achievement in the negotiations to then allow for a ceasefire with the hostages coming out, to provide more aid and assistance to the Palestinians there, and hopefully a reconstruction project. But those are the broad parameters. In the near term, it's getting these hostages out, and that is the critical touchstone for getting to a ceasefire.
Joel, how big of a sticking point are Israeli troops in Gaza after a ceasefire for this deal to get across the finish line?
Yeah, Hannah, the Israeli troops left in 2006, 2005, 2006, haven't been in there for almost 2 decades. And when Hamas launched its war last October 7th, it basically invited in an Israeli response, and now a reoccupation of much of Gaza. And that will be a sticking point. If there's ever going to be a negotiated solution, the question about whether or not Israel will maintain a presence in Gaza will be at the top of the list. But with this government now in Israel, Prime Minister Netanyahu and many of his supporters, his political supporters, there's an interest in actually resettling parts of Gaza, places where they were taken out of. So it's going to be a hot topic, but that's a longer-term dialogue. In the near term, what we need to see is a cessation of hostilities and the hostages return so the Palestinian people and the Israeli people can finally have some calm.
Jill, I only have a few seconds left. Very quickly, Sullivan has said he does not believe Netanyahu is waiting for a Trump presidency. So with that said, how likely do you think it is that the hostages are released before the end of the Biden administration in 40 some odd days?
I think the likelihood is increasing, and that's in large part because President-elect Trump has said he wants this deal done too. You know, he doesn't want to have this on day one. This is a complex, difficult, diabolical situation from a diplomatic perspective. And so now that he's reinforcing the message that President Biden has been promoting, I think that there's a greater recognition that a deal needs to get done, and sooner rather than later.
Jill Rubin, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.